Tharma, yeah.
Hi everyone. Firstly, thank you very much to Aliran for organizing and pushing the people's agenda. I think I concur firstly with all the ideas, the idealism, and the fight that all my previous speakers have spoken about. From the perspective of Undi 18, we of course want a better future for our country. I think we come in from the perspective of young people, where we want to be able to build a country that is future-proof, a country that has strong institutions, a country that we can trust, where when taxpayer money are being used, it's being used in an efficient, effective manner, there's less leakages, and therefore we are able to then use our resources and our money in the best manner possible to help affected communities, to help marginalized communities. And I think the key element that is the big puzzle in terms of solving all this is the fight against corruption and cronyism, which is the last agenda of the people's agenda, which is to fight corruption and cronyism. I believe, and I think this is something that Undi 18 has constantly been advocating for, that the youth must be an anti-corruption generation. It's not enough that we simply accept the culture and the normalization of corruption to continue. I think there was a statistic from SPRM that revealed that up to 30% of young people, and of course an undisclosed number of older generations, had a cultural acceptance, or they were okay with corrupt practices, right? And this is of course corruption on a lower level. So I think the fact that there is the culturalization of corruption, even on a simplistic level, is a cause for concern, because many of these individuals will eventually become enforcers. They'll join the police, they'll join your customs, they'll become civil servants, they'll join companies, right? And within companies, they might be one of the people who will make or facilitate corrupt practices. Therefore, we must push against the normalization and the culturalization of corruption. I think that part is incredibly important. The second part, I think, is also for us, and I think this is something that we've also been advocating for through another coalition, which is Rasuah Busters, which is to implement and institutionalize certain core anti-corruption practices, reforms, and laws. This includes the National Anti-Corruption Plan, to have a political funding act, to ensure that there's better enforcement by SPR and SPRM in terms of financial fair play during elections. I think these are elements that are incredibly important, especially in terms of institutionalizing what exactly is corruption, what exactly is political financing. Right? I think this is one of the issues where you've seen a number of politicians who have done things that are clearly unethical by any standard of moral behavior, unethical behavior. However, according to the law, it's difficult to prosecute them because we don't have the specific legal language and legal protections to say that that particular thing is a criminal activity. So this is one of the important things that we must be able to amend in terms of fighting corruption. And I think it's also very important to explain to the public and explain to the average citizen, what does this mean, right? That corruption is not just something that happens on a small basis, where the concept of duit kopi, or the concept of just giving something under the table, a small amount, right? That those ideas are normalized, and those ideas are perhaps what people understand. But I think the larger scale corruption, political corruption, the corruption where political parties are using it to fund and to build their supporter base. I think these are bigger issues that and complex ecosystems that perhaps many of the public do not yet understand. I think this is where civil society, interested individuals, political parties must come together in this people's agenda, in this battle against corruption. We must come together and be united in terms of trying to explain to the public what exactly is the systems and the complicated mechanisms of corruption. I do believe that I think that the last point that I want to make here is this. I think the idea of a people's agenda is something that's very important, very core in terms of shaping national narrative, in terms of shaping where do our politicians believe, and how do they see, what do people care about. And I think this affects the language that they use. This affects the public policies that they advocate for. This affects the manifestos that they might be pushing out. And this also affects the kind of candidates that they will be pushing out in elections. I think we've seen that through the movement of Undi 18, that change is possible, change can happen, and change is not impossible. Right now, we have an addition of 5.8 million new voters as of January 15th of 2022, as of this year. So this is a huge number, a radical change in terms of how we understand democracy and how we understand the voter numbers, right? The dynamics of elections has completely changed. So in this, in this massive reform and in this massive change, you've seen how various political parties have definitely adapted in terms of their manifestos, in terms of their choice of candidates, in terms of their choice of Menteri Besar. Right? I think these are a number of narratives that have been changing over time. So I believe that there is power to people's movement. There is power to people to individuals, civil society members, average members of the public who are interested in change, who are interested in making this national transformation happen. So I think on my end, we are committed to pushing the anti-corruption, anti-cronyism aspect with various parties, various coalitions, and also ourselves as Undi 18. We are committed, and we are, and I think we are very passionate about pushing this with the youth and ensuring that the youngest generation becomes an anti-corruption generation. And with that, I think that's all. Thank you very much, and I'll pass it back to the moderator.